Hey, welcome back to The Edge. I am your host, Micah Parsons. This episode is brought to you by The Pit. Watch new episodes Thursday at 9 p.m. on Max. Drop any questions or comments in the chat. I know it's going to be hectic, honestly, due to this coaching change. And it's very, very interesting, man. Obviously, very sad because the relationships, we had with Coach McCarthy and everything he's done for our program. 3 straight 12-5 seasons, playoff appearances, and obviously an unfortunate year due to injuries and things like that. But it is devastating. Coach Mike's a great father, coach, one of the most winningest coaches. And, he's always been good to us as a unit, us to coaches, players. So, losing a great coach like Mike hurts. But it's going to be very interesting off seasons. It's going to be very interesting, due to the free agents, the coaching. It's like, it's going to be a complete reset. So it's going to be a very interesting and challenging off season. But listen, I already know I trust my owner. I trust our GM. I trust Will McClay that we're going to make the right decisions. We're going to make the right decision when it comes to coaching. We don't know who's getting what. It's been a lot of speculations. Former players mentioned like prime time, Witten. But at the end of the day, speculation. We're going to wait to see who gets hired, who's going to be our DC, our OC, because it's going to be a complete reset. So it's going to be very interesting. And then seeing how those guys envision players and who they want to bring in, who they want to keep, who they want to build around. So it will be very interesting because, through this time, now there's certain players that, our staff like that they would have want to bring back and they might not bring back. So it's going to be challenging. These guys might have a different idea how they want to build the defense, the offense. So, there's no security in this league, and that's the dangerous part of the NFL. There's always, most likely in most cases, besides Tomlin, Shanahan's, the McVays, there's not really a lot of coaching changes. But when you're in them programs and those coaches draft you and they have an idea where they want you to fit and how they want you to play, and when they're all out, it's kind of like your SOL, you know what I mean? And I've seen that happen to guys who I've been with. You've seen a bunch of Q guys travel with him, so I can only imagine a bunch of guys is going to follow McCarthy, and when they come to our defense, we don't know, but they might follow and go other places. So it'll be very, very interesting, and it's going to be challenging. But listen, as you know, one of the leaders of this team, I'm going to be looking forward to accept all challenges and embrace whatever comes and help my team lead to a championship. At the end of the day, we got to move on. We can't think of the past. We got to move on. And, and it is going to be sad, understanding that you're going to miss some of your players, and I'm definitely going to be sad because you got to pray and hope to envision that they have the same ideas of who you want to be around. And, hopefully I'm brought up into those conversations about, who I would like to play with, bring around. I hope I get that, level of treatment and, obviously meet with this new DC and bring into this conversation how they want to use me. Am I going to be used as a chess piece or just a, left side defensive end? We don't know. But those are a lot of questions, a lot of things to be answered. It's a lot of things in the air. And obviously as players, it don't make us feel good all the time because, you want the person that's going to best fit for your future and how they're going to see you in your future. And that's the challenging part about being in entertainment is, you don't get that all the time. You don't get all your wishes. You know what I mean? So I just got to sit back and pray and work as hard as I possibly can. And, a lot of people say about holding a trophy up there. I honestly don't think there's no setbacks. There's no setbacks. I think some of the greatest players learn to adjust, right? You learn to adjust to people around you, learn to adjust to new coaching. But, at the end of the day, coaches can only do so much. Players, we got to build a winning culture. We got to build a winning culture. So there is no setback right there. And, I say we're holding the trophy just because I believe in our guys. When you got, CeeDee Lamb, you got, Dad, you got myself, and, there's a bunch of other guys that I'm not mentioning, second-year guys that's going to make huge jumps. DB, Trayvon, Demon's going to come back. When you got a bunch of guys that is going to come back and put in full effort and help change the trajectory of this team, I got 100 belief in that, and hopefully we bring in guys that's going to help build the culture and things even more. So, to all the haters, it's whatever, but, we're going to keep handling business and play good football. That's all I know how to do. But it's going to be interesting. Let's get into the playoffs. The NFC East shows out. Both Eagles and Commanders showed up in this weekend, and I want to give y'all a big shout out to Jayden Daniels. I know I've been hyping him up, but he's the truth. When it's time to win the game and close out the game, honestly, besides Patrick Mahomes, there's not a better quarterback that comes to finishing games right now in the league. When it comes to gotta have a moments, end of game drives, just flawless, no mishaps, makes it happen. It has to be Jayden Daniels right now. It has to be, and we're talking about Mahomes because what he does in the playoffs and what he does in the Super Bowl. But when it comes to them last 3-4 minutes in the game, he has to be. They won at least 5-6 games by miraculous comebacks. They almost came back on us with that nice pass he had to Terry McLaurin, but then Terp iced the game. But he's been unbelievable. I would never bet against someone like Jayden Daniels. I told y'all how good he is. I told y'all what he's capable of, and to win a game against a good Bucs team on the road and in that fashion. Oh man, he's unbelievable. The Commanders found a gem, and it's scary. It's scary for the league. I understand that the Lions have a lot of success blitzing, but with someone who can move as good as he move, it's going to be a very big challenge for Aaron Glenn. Any mobile quarterback is a great challenge. The Lions had challenges with Lamar. It's going to be very interesting how they affect Jayden Daniels and get him out of his rhythm with his blitzing and a lot of things the Lions do defensively. It's going to be very interesting because the way he's able to move in the pocket and escape pressure, it's marvelous. So it's going to be very interesting to see. It's going to be a very good game. And then, with the Rams upsetting, Minnesota yesterday and seeing the Eagles team and how they played, I'm going to say if that Rams team can play like they did again in Philly, they can beat Philly. They can beat Philly. At this point right now, you could say any team can be beaten right now. I think the NFC is the best division, well, at least the best side in football. At least complete teams, but I think anyone can be beaten right now, without a doubt. It's going to be, it's going to be great games, but congratulations to the Eagles and the Commanders for winning their wild card round. And it just shows you how good the NFC East is. It really does. So for years to come, the NFC East is going to be battles. It's going to be battles for the division. I don't think there's anyone that's ever going to have a clean sweep. No one's going to have a clean sweep. You got to be on your A game in every division battle. It's going to be extremely challenging. It's going to be good to see. Let's start off with Saquon. I mean, he did it again. He didn't score, but 25 carries, 119 yards. It was tough for Jordan Love. I just feel like for how many turnovers they had, they still had a chance to win the game. Their defense showed out. Starting the game off with a turnover, which led to 7, it really changed the outcome of the game. And then losing both of your starting receivers in that game and already losing Christian Watson the week before, it's just been a tough blow. And then they lost their left guard, tough blow after tough blow for the Packers. It's very hard to evaluate. Jordan Love couldn't get any time. That Eagles rush took over with the lead and all the holding penalties, the setbacks. They made it extremely challenging for Jordan Love, someone who's, when he's at his best, he's playing on rhythm. Second and short, third and short, not having to force throws, can hit any throw on the field. But when you're in these backed up positions and you're trying to get the ball down the field and, not a lot of players open and, they can just let their rush happen, that's not the position the Packers want to be in. They rely on good run game, play action, blocking it up, and they play better when they're in the lead. So the position Jordan Love was in from the very beginning of the game kind of set him off for failure, and it'll be very interesting to see how the Packers attack free agency, understanding that the receivers are constantly hurt. They need to bring in more weapons. Do they attack free agency? Do they find a way to get T. Higgins and to Green Bay. It's going to be very interesting. There's going to be a lot of receivers out there that's going to be eligible for extensions. And do they bring help around Jordan Love? Because obviously they need it. You see it in the playoff game. Christian Watson's out, so you might not be back until middle of next year with the ACL injury. So what do the Packers do? They got someone then, Josh Jacobs, who played terrific. I thought Josh Jacobs really showed something, never gave up, was running hard the whole time. But they need to find ways to build around Jordan Love. That's the only way. That's the future of the program. They paid him $200 million. They have to find ways to keep healthy receivers and elite receivers around Jordan Love. So it's going to be very interesting and good to see. And how do they revamp the O-line play with the injuries and things like that? Because they definitely need depth at that position. I think our defense is playing well. They play really well, actually. And they probably need to add a rusher, too. They keep disrupting that pocket, but, for overall, I thought that was a very good game. For all the turnovers and stuff, you would think a Philly team would dominate the Packers, but, with a bye week, there could be some rust, missed timings and things like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens in that Rams and Eagles game because, obviously Jalen didn't play bad, but that's not explosive as their offense has been all year. And you don't want to play like that against an explosive McVay team. I said it. You never really bet against McVay. I told y'all last week, Minnesota's good, but you don't bet against McVay. He finds ways to win games, and they found ways to win last week, and that was a terrific win. And it was honestly unbelievable to see. It was unbelievable to see. It was a masterful performance defensively. I mean, 8 total sacks. Matthew Stafford started the game off, 8 for 8, 9 for 9. And, it was a masterclass. And, they have to find ways to get A.J. Brown involved. I mean, I know we all seen it. A.J. Brown was caught, reading a book or whatever it may be. We don't know the circumstances. I won't dive into it. But you have to find ways to get your number one receiver, the guy you paid $33 million involved in a game. And it's unexcusable how he only had 1 catch for 10 yards. It's just no way that should happen. They got to find ways to get him involved in that game. And the Eagles probably will break out. This is a team similar to before where they played early in the season and the Eagles got the best of them. Do they get the best of them again? Saquon dominated that game. Can they find ways to neutralize Saquon and have Hurts beat them? That's what it's going to come down to. They have to find a way to neutralize Saquon Barkley, and I think the Rams can have a lot of success. I think, and the other team, Jayden Daniels, they're going down to Detroit. I hit on it earlier. Can they find ways to stop Jayden Daniels? That's going to be the most interesting thing so far that is going to be happening, because I think if the game's on the line and you got Jayden Daniels with 2 minutes left and it's 17-17, can they win that game? It's going to come down to Jared Goff, obviously. Jared Goff got to limit the turnovers. You can't keep giving Jayden Daniels the ball. I think the turnovers is going to be a crucial factor. And can that Washington's front affect Jared Goff in the most dominant way? They need to find a way to affect Jared Goff to create turnovers. It's going to be a battle between up front, totally, because they got to honestly slow down Jahmyr Gibbs. And it's going to be an interesting matchup because it's going to be Louvu versus Gibbs. I think that's going to be the matchup to look out for. I think Louvu's been one of the most dominant linebackers this year. And seeing him against Gibbs, who's been the most dominant back, I think we're starting to see what Gibbs can be when he carries the load. I understand he's been splitting it with Montgomery and things like that, but Gibbs has been tearing the league up since he's been getting a start. I mean, he might be the most – I think him and Saquon are A and B when it comes to breakout speed, long speed, explosion. Him and Saquon are, hand in hand when it comes to, when they hit a lane, they're out of there. So it's going to be a very interesting game. He's the 4th QB to ever win a road playoff game in his rookie year. So if he wins one, he could win another. I'm never counting out the Commanders, but, I said the Detroit's defense, I don't know if they could hold up, but the way they dominated Darnold, last week or 2 weeks ago, it was extraordinary. It was extraordinary. So I'm never counting out Aaron Glenn. He showed me something. He showed me that he is a elite coach, elite competitor, because they found ways to eliminate Jefferson, found ways to slow down Addison. And, that was probably one of the most explosive, front ends of receiver cores that we see, especially with Hawkinson and things like that. McVay and Aaron Glenn found ways to slow him down. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see the matchups against Terry McLaurin and things like that, because it's going to be a very, very interesting game. And we don't want to, count out Baker. I thought Baker showed some fight throughout this game. He had a nasty run. Baker really showed up. We all said Baker's one of the hardest people to tackle. I mean, he's so interesting. He's an elite competitor. Baker's someone that should be in the league for a long time. I thought his time in Cleveland, people kind of counted him out. I thought Cleveland tried to bury him, but we kind of see the success Baker has had since he's been in Tampa with Bowles, elite coaching, not always switching coordinators, pretty good O-line play. And, Baker's been balling. So it's very beautiful to see. Congratulations to the Bucs on a great year, but the Commanders got the best of them. It's going to be, it's going to be a great game we're going to see in Detroit. And then a blowout weekend. I feel like a lot of teams took care of business, and we're going to start with Lamar, and that's going to be the game of the week to me of who really is the MVP, right? I think Josh Allen and Lamar both got like this hanger above them saying you both have an argument to be MVP, but it's like who can win in the biggest moment when it really matters the most. I thought, Baltimore got the best of Bills earlier in the season, but it's going to be a completely different game heading into this game. It's going to be very interesting to see. Obviously, you would think, and we've been seeing a lot of stuff with Tomlin. People should trade for Tomlin. Other execs said we should move on. But are you mad? Tomlin hasn't had a losing season in his career. I think he's one of the most beautifully gifted coaches in the NFL when it comes to building people around him and making them elite, making them better. I was watching the Hard Knocks show, and Herbig, he believed in him all week, talking about he needs to go make a play. He needs to make a play. It's going to be him versus Zeus, and you're going to make a play when it matters the most. And he made that play. He's spoken to existence. So when you have a coach that instills belief, still instills that type of determination throughout the week, and proclaims that for your success, and it happens, man, you should never go against that. I think the Steelers will be delusional to move on for Tomlin. I definitely think they need to revamp them things, address the O-line play, address the receiver play. And then also they got to address the QB situation this offseason. But I think a lot of things need to be addressed when it comes to that. I just thought in total, Baltimore dominated them. It's going to be hard to stop Lamar and Henry. I mean, look at this long touchdown play. I mean, this is the effect of Lamar and Derrick Henry. I mean, if you show the other angle, I saw the other angle. 3 people jumped out to Lamar on a zone read because of his impact and his legs. I believe the Mike linebacker, the safety, and someone else followed Lamar on that and created a wide gap for Derrick Henry to run through. Their combination has been one of the most deadliest in the NFL. It's been very beautiful to see, honestly. But people keep talking about MVP Lamar, MVP Derrick Henry. I honestly think they won't be having a season without one another. I think Derrick Henry takes a lot off of Lamar, and Lamar takes a lot off Derrick Henry. It's a very it's a very compatible relationship between them. I think they help each other equally. I don't think it's one or the other. You know what I'm saying? Because Derrick Henry was in Tennessee, and Lamar was the leading rusher of his team last year. So I think people really don't think about that. They're talking about anyone can do the Lamar position, but Lamar was his leading rusher last year. So having Derrick Henry extremely helped him out a lot. I mean, honestly, the most dangerous things now is we're seeing Derrick Henry and zone read, formations. Like you're reading either Derrick Henry or Lamar, and you really can go wrong on either one. So and the way they scheme it, the way they create openings for it is one of the most deadly we ever seen. So, I mean, anytime you could rush for over 200 yards, Lamar had 81 yards, Derrick Henry had 26 rushes for 186 yards. If they can do that in Buffalo on the road, it's going to be another blowout. They have to find a way to slow these two down. It, and it's going to be hard to see anyone slow them down. I think the AFC is a very tough division when it comes to those elite three teams: Bills, Chiefs, and Baltimore. But right now, I think the Baltimore Ravens, the energy they've been having, the momentum they're having going to playoffs, they are the team to beat. I think they are truly the team to beat. The last 4 or 5 weeks, they've been dominating, clicking defensively, offensively, just in everything. And I think Baltimore has the rush to contain Baltimore has the rush to contain Josh Allen. They have it with Odafe Owe, Kyle Van Noy, Justin. Pretty much everyone, man. They literally have elite rushers, elite DTs, and they're going to find. I think I'm gonna take Baltimore in this matchup. I think they showed it earlier in the season, but I really think that Baltimore is the team to beat right now. They're the team to beat, and that leads us into the Steelers. George Pickens is, brutally honest about what he sees the offense next year, man. And, is he optimistic? And he's like, nah. So obviously, I think they do need to address this situation because they need to find a way to future George Pickens no more. I see kind of how Dallas futures CeeDee Lamb, Bengals with Jamar. You got to find a way to get your number one receiver the ball a little bit more. I understand Pickens is electric, but you have to find a way to get him the ball, get him involved in the offense scheme, just a bunch of different things. But it's going to be very interesting. We're going to have hell of a games this week. And then, we're going to have the Bill game. I thought the Broncos was going to come out rolling. They started off with that big drive in the first series, start off with 7. Defense was holding up. But then again, the run game kind of just took over. I thought James Cook was on another one, 23 rushes for 120 yards. Josh Allen, he was damn near perfect, 20 for 26. They just got the best of him. I just feel like the Broncos didn't do a great job affecting Josh Allen in a manner where he wasn't going to be comfortable, which I think the Baltimore Ravens can. But in all, that just leads us to Texans versus Chiefs. We see the GOAT, Patty Mahomes, back in action. It's going to be beautiful to see. And it's like, the question is, can CJ Stroud change the narrative? He's been in a situation before where he beat the Browns at home after winning the division, and now he's going back. Last year he went on the road against Lamar, but now he's going against Patrick Mahomes. Can he have the upset of the century? This is more than just a game. This is a legacy game for him. Can he beat Patrick Mahomes in playoffs in his second year in the NFL? I understand his struggles earlier in the season, middle season, but the way he played against the Chargers defense and made plays, made things happen, can he do that again against the Kansas City Chiefs? That is going to be the question, because he played absolutely terrific last week, especially going into that second half. He was just lights out. So the question is, can he slow down? Can we keep that momentum of CJ Stroud going, knowing what he's capable of? He looks like he's back in sync. Nico Collins looks like he's back in sync. Yes, they dealt with injuries, but can he have that same success? Can he go on the road and Arrowhead and make the upset of at least, half a decade? I think a lot of people written CJ off, but I ain't going to write out CJ Stroud yet. I think he's an elite competitor. He's a dog, and he can find a way to beat Patrick Mahomes. But then again, you say, I'm never going to bet against Patrick Mahomes because he is probably one of the greatest quarterbacks of this decade. He's on a 2-time repeat, and he's looking for his 3rd. So I already know off a bye week, they're going to be prepared. They got one of the greatest coaches of our generation, Andy Reid. It's going to be a showdown in Kansas City. I wouldn't call that one a blowout. I think it's going to be a very competitive game, but who knows? We're going to leave that up in the air. And then a lot of people are getting into Justin Herbert, trying to compare him to other quarterbacks, drag him in the dirt. But I would say this Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. I would never say – I think he has ways to grow, but I think from the position where they were last year to how Harbaugh came in and say, okay, the O-line is okay now, which the O-line was troubles, but now they need weapons. They need to go into this draft, whatever it is, and get them elite receiver. I get they drafted Quentin Johnson, but he has inconsistencies throughout this year. Lad McConkey really showed up, but they need more. They need to build around Herbert. This defense has been great, but they need to build around Herbert. I don't think they built around Herbert in every way possible. You can see it. I mean, throughout the whole year, they just, besides Lad, there wasn't a whole lot of other options out there. Guys not creating separation, guys just not getting open. So they need to find ways to get help around Herbert and someone outside of Lad. They got rid of Keenan Allen last year. They took Joe Alt in the draft. They had, I think, Neighbors right there. I think they had the top 5 pick, and they chose Joe Alt, which I thought they would get Neighbors, but they didn't. So it's going to be very interesting. But they were a top 5 pick last year to a playoff team and they did it through great QB play. I get the struggles, but he also had drop passes and things that led to turnovers. I mean, for a guy who had 3 turnovers all year to having 3 in one game, I get it. But, a couple of those weren't his fault. Missed timing, missed throws, receivers not doing the right thing. Who knows? But I will not write off Justin Herbert yet. I think he has ways to go. I think the organization has ways to go because they got to keep building around him. But I think Justin Herbert can be a winning quarterback and a championship quarterback. I don't think that was a mistake. So I think for people to judge them is completely wrong. To go from 5-12 to 11-6 in 1 year is something beautiful to see. And the thing about the weapons he's had to go for almost 4,000 yards and 25 total TDs and 3 interceptions is an exception. I would take that from any quarterback in a year because you'll win a lot of football games if you don't turn the ball over. So I would take that, bro. I would not. I don't think we should shame Justin Herbert at all. I get playoff success makes legends, but bro, there's a lot of people who, Matthew Stafford, he's a legend, but he didn't win a Super Bowl until, later on in his career. I don't know exactly what year, but not comparing, but, you can have a lot of success and still not have all the pieces. And then, Matthew Stafford, he went down to LA. They had Cooper Kupp. They had Odell Beckham Jr. They had a lot of pieces. So it's going to be very interesting to see how they build around, how they build around Justin Herbert going forward. And that leads us to, Minnesota. They're going to have some tough decisions to make. It's kind of sad, and I feel bad for Sam Darnold because he's expected to be a free agent this year, but I felt like he had a chance these last 2 weeks to make him a lot of money because people don't care what you do in a regular season anymore, especially as a quarterback. I hope, he does get paid and he has a lot of success, but I hope people don't judge him for those last 2 games, but judge him out progression of how well he's played the whole entire year. I get he struggled the last 2 weeks with different type of pressures and blitzes, but I think another year in O'Connell's system, he could take another jump. I don't know if he get a max deal. I don't know what that looks like. But I think they need to keep JJ and Darnold in Minnesota. I think Darnold's knowledge of being with Shanahan, being in New York, kind of just, being all over, he can give JJ a lot of knowledge. I think JJ can learn from him. I think them having an offseason together, them playing together can really turn out good because we've seen the Rodgers and Love. We've seen Rodgers and Favre. And, we've seen situations like that. We just seen Penix and Cousins. So nowadays we're starting to see what it looks like when a person can just learn. And yeah, we get exceptional quarterbacks like Jayden Daniels, CJ Stroud, who dominate early on without that learning curve. But I think most players in the league need to be developed. I think most players need that learning curve to be developed and learn under other guys who are exceptionally well. So, I think Sam Darnold should stay in Minnesota. I think they should offer him maybe a Baker Mayfield deal, maybe a little less, but at least a chance for him to build on what he's done this year and the relationships he built. I think people really like him in that building. You can see, going back a couple weeks, how much they celebrated Sam Darnold on his success and how well he's played this year. I get the struggle, but everyone struggles. I just think he struggled at the wrong time of year, and that's the truth, but let's get into this segment. Defense wins championship. Let's get to some Warriors and the trenches from this past weekend. Brought to you by The Pit. Watch new episodes Thursday at 9 p.m. on Max. It wouldn't be The Edge if we didn't give some love to the D-line. I'm going to rank my top 5 defensive lineman performances from this past weekend because it was really beautiful to see. But I'm gonna start off with my guy Nolan Smith. Coming off with 6.5. And I'm gonna put him at we can start from 5, but let's put him at number 1 for right now because I think that's my number 1 guy. He had 6.5 sacks all year, but he found a way to dominate in that game against the Packers. I mean, 2 sacks, 8 tackles, 2 TFLs. I thought Nolan really took a huge jump. Let's go to number 5. I'm gonna go with Will Anderson Jr. I mean, actually, let's go with Will Anderson Jr. 1.5 sacks, 3 tackles, 2 passes defended. I mean, he was just, dominating in every facet, hands up, getting to the quarterback. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with this guy because, how dominant he's been in his career. And that's Khalil Mack. 2 sacks, 6 tackles. I hope he stays another year. He's been so dominant. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with him and his future. But Khalil Mack has just always been dominant. I'm going to put him at 4. Number 3, I'm going with Kobe Turner, 2 sacks, 4 tackles. I just thought he started the game off so strong for the Rams. I think he set the tone early on, and he didn't look back. I think Kobe Turner deserves that 3rd spot. And at number 1, I'm going to just go with, I don't even know how to say his name right. Namadi Madubuike. 2 sacks, 4 tackles, 1 pass defended. I mean, he's just outright dominant. I mean, he's coming off a great year. I mean, but to have that type of game, even with those outside pieces, I mean, he was just outright dominant. Just watching him take over that game was really something beautiful to see. So we have some great games going into the divisional round. I went 4-2 last week. I think a surprising result was I think that Vikings game, I thought it'd be a little bit more closer. The Rams really dominated that game. They really dominated that game. So it's going to be really something to see. Is there a team that gives you more confidence with them moving forward? I'm gonna say the Commanders, and I'm gonna say the Commanders and the Rams. I think a lot of teams counted them out early on, kind of those guys who slipped in. Didn't have the greatest record, but played really good football in December. Played really good football in December. And I think those are 2 teams you should look out for. Divisional round games, it's really hard. It's really hard. Man. Commanders versus Lions. Man, just off the strength, I get it. I just can't bet against Jayden Daniels. I'm going to go with Commanders. I'm going to go with the Commanders, man. I get it. This is a big jump. I got Commanders winning. It is risky, but I'm going to take the Commanders. Rams, Eagles. Same again. I think it's going to be a big upset week, man. I'm going to go with the Rams. I just think the way the Rams played last week, the way they've been playing in December, I think they've been on a tear. They're in rhythm. The Eagles didn't look like they were in rhythm. So I'm gonna go with the team that looks hot. I'm gonna go with the Rams. Texans, Chiefs. I can't go against Patty Mahomes. I'm going with Chiefs, and then I'm gonna take Ravens over Bills. Ravens over Bills. So that's my picks going into the divisional round. College football playoff time. Before we get out of here, let's talk about my Nittany Lions going down to the Irish. I was speechless. They left me speechless. I was extremely hurt, but I would say I was more proud because of how well we played. But I definitely think we are the better team. I just think we made the final mistake. I just think in that situation, we can't turn the ball over. We could have just played for overtime. I think we beat them in overtime. They couldn't stop our run game. Nick Singleton, K-Tron was on one. But I thought we were the better team. I really did. I hate that for Coach Franklin. I hate that for staff and everyone that put so much into it. But what leaves me happy is the culture that Coach Franklin's building, and so many of those guys have come back. You know, getting Alar back, getting DDS back, Nick and Katron, getting most of those guys back shows you the culture that we're building, and it says that we're not restarting and we can really do it. So a bunch of these other teams are going to lose a lot of good players. I like that a lot. You know, we are losing Abdul, but, you know, Deion Barnes is a great defensive line coach. I think he's going to help change this program around and really put out some really, really good D linemen. So I'm excited to see what we do next year. I think it's going to be a great year, and I think we're going to get back to the dance. Let's take some final questions from the chat. Did you apologize to CJ for picking against the Texans last week? No, I did not. He hate defensively. The Texans showed up. CJ showed up. I just thought it'd be more of a fight. I knew it would be a close game. I just didn't know it would be so lopsided in that fashion. Have you ever read a book on a sideline? And if not, what book would you read? No, I've never read a book on a sideline, but if I was reading a book, I'd be reading The Art of War. I'd be thinking about war mentality, how to get ready to go and play this game. Thoughts on Rams versus Bills Super Bowl? Not happening. Not happening. Who is coach of the year? I would say, honestly, coach of the year should probably be O'Connell. You telling me you start this year off with, you know, no quarterback. Sam Darnold don't have a lot of film, but you make an appearance at playoffs with one of the most one of greater records in the NFL. I think O'Connell should definitely get the nudge. Can you see a Ravens Commanders Super Bowl? I could. I won't lie. I could see a Ravens Commanders football, and I think that would be a legacy game for both Lamar and Jayden Daniels. That would be a very interesting game. But this episode is brought to you by The Pit. Watch new episodes Thursday at 9 p.m. on Max. I know I will, starting today. I appreciate you guys. I thank you guys, and I will see you guys soon. But that is a wrap.